Crackin' B. This week on ThugNotes, we're going to take a look at Volume 2, Chapter 13 of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. So the title of this chapter is called The Painful Path of Education. And while that chapter works well, as it explains how Elizabeth now has a new understanding and image on the whole situation, we here at Something would like to call it Elizabeth's reassessment, as her preconceived notion and ideas about Mr. Wickham and Mr. Darcy have radically changed with the new letter that was given to her.
Cut?
Yeah. After rereading the letter that Mr. Darcy sent to Elizabeth, Elizabeth now has another revelation, as she is given the second half of the story on why Mr. Darcy and Mr. Wickham both hate each other. But now, Mr. Darcy has become more honorable and honest with Elizabeth compared to Mr. Wickham, who has now been given a new shade of color. Now, Elizabeth is... Damn it! Elizabeth starts noticing a more honorable and righteous man in Mr. Darcy instead of Mr. Wickham, as he has been given a new shade of dark for his manipulation and lies of the information that he was giving. Now, Elizabeth has to reevaluate and analyze her own judgment, for she used prejudice to cloud her own judgment, for which she prides herself in. Later, Mr. Darcy and Colonel Fitzwilliam both left, leaving Elizabeth to wonder what the letter purpose really is.
Cut? Go.
Our key quote of the day is...
"How despicably have I acted," she cried, "I, who have prided myself on my discernment."
The importance of this quote is that Elizabeth is now at a crucial point in her character development. No longer is she just gonna think she's better than everyone else, as she can judge people as quick as ever, but now she has to reevaluate and reconfigure what it means to be... Damn it, no, that doesn't work. I was kind of just guessing off. I'm trying to do this in my own word instead of just saying it word to word. This quote plays a crucial point in Elizabeth's character development, as she was too quick to judge on Mr. Darcy when she only met him the first time and only heard one side of the story from Mr. Wickham. Now she feels humiliated and now has to start a path of self-actualization, as she can no longer keep on going with a confirmation bias from what she knows.
Cut?
The sense of self-understanding is checked and understood, as her idea of shrewdness now is reconstructed, for she now has to confront her emotions and her understanding with Mr. Darcy, and the two will one day put that sort of emotions to the test. Our image of the day is one of self-reflection. Marrian, now. This whole chapter is one big self-reflection, as Elizabeth now has to reconfigure her own ideas of what it means to be a woman and her understanding of the whole system itself. As she can no longer believe that one side is good and the other is bad, and now has to look at her own self and see what the true meaning and true purpose of what it all is about. Now, after all of this self-reflection, the question has to remain, will the Bennet families even find true love, or will they just be entangled in this system of oppression? All of these questions will be answered by the next presenters.